Welcome to the Estate Professionals Mastermind Podcast, a podcast for estate professionals who earn more, work less, and make a huge difference in their communities. If you get value out of this free content, be sure to check out ProbateMastery.com, where you can get live classes, access to weekly coaching, and valuable courses. To learn more, visit ProbateMastery.com. Now let's jump into this week's content.
Good morning or good afternoon. Welcome to the Probate Mastery weekly real estate coaching call. I'm Bill Gross. I'm a broker associate with eXp Realty in Los Angeles, California, building a national team of real estate experts, probate experts. But we're on this call as a mastermind to get together to share best practices, encourage each other, share some victories, commiserate over some losses, talk about what we're doing that's working, and try to help each other be more successful. And just a little background, this call, when Chad used to have, before he had this company, was all the leads.com, did a weekly mastermind. And I felt like I needed that regularly as a way to learn and grow and improve. And then when Chad moved to this company, I retook the training and took this class, and I found that I needed it in order to keep my mind set on improving my skills. And I'll be honest with you, maybe in an hour, I might pick up 2 or 3 minutes of good value. But 2 or 3 minutes of good value on my business was worth a lot. It was worth more than hours of time. And so that's why, and then at some point, Chad wasn't able to continue the call. And I said, well, I'll substitute for you. And I'm not getting paid to do this at this time. I do this because I need it, because I want to prove my business. I'm a full-time salesperson. I close about 25 transactions, mostly probate a year, just under about $400,000 gross commissions. And I have a team of agents underneath me as well that I'm trying to help them build their business as well. So I need this to succeed as much as you do. And I know that the more I participate, the more I give, the more I get. And I'm going to encourage you all to take the same approach with your business. Now, this call is associated with the Probate Mastery program taught previously by Chad Corbett, recently acquired by Bruce Hill, who's also a coach at alltheleads.com. And there's different programs, and you can pick your right path on the front page there. And then disclosure under the Earn Attorney Referrals Now. I teach one of the modules. I'm part of one of the modules. But there's different programs and practices you can go through to learn how to improve your skills. And then you can continue the conversation on this call on the Facebook group Estate Professionals Mastermind with just under 7,000 members. And I would say there you can both share requests for referrals, share victories, continue the conversation there, post your content as well. And then separately from all of this, I host a program called Probate Weekly every Thursday, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. I record that and put that on YouTube as well. You're welcome to go there and watch it on replay or live. Love to have you participate live. And then I also have a Facebook group, Probate Weekly. That's free. We have about 3,000 members. And again, post your probate content there as well as questions and referral requests and such. In fact, this Thursday, I'm going to have the most prolific probate attorney in Los Angeles County, Paul Horn, who also is the teacher of the California Association of Realtors certification course. So I'm really excited to have Paul. I've had him on before. He's a great teacher, great attorney, and I'm really excited to share him with everybody on the call. Love to have you put your information in the chat box. Let's network together. Put your name, your phone number, your email, how to reach you, and then where you service and what you're looking for, what kind of business, if you're an agent, if you're an investor, and we want to match people up together. And I will say, the more you participate, the more money you make. I mean, I can talk, and I do all the time. I teach classes on probate every day. You could wake me up at 4 a.m. I could do an hour class. You could wake me up the next morning, and as long as I could put water in my face, I could do another hour and not overlap. So, but don't leave it to me. You guys want to make money. I'm here to help you by answering questions, sharing best practices, and getting us to work together. And I really believe as a team, we will do a lot more business together than any one of us will on our own. I find in my area, particularly in probate, that there are people who really try to create a silo, like they found a secret they don't want to share. And while it's true, maybe they have some ideas and some systems that appear in the short run to work. In the long run, there's no way to build a business. There's something wrong with that. There's no technology here that we're talking about. It really is the disciplines, the procedures, the hard work that we go on improving ourselves all the time. So I'm going to challenge you to participate and share. And then if you have questions, Most things I'm willing to share, give away for free. Some things I hold back a little bit on, but as a general rule, I'm pretty much willing to be an open book for you guys. So we have 22 people on it live. I'm sure we'll have more on the replay. We do record this. Who's got a question, challenge, victory you want to share, defeat you want to share with everybody so we avoid that? Who has, George, is that your hand up? Okay, so let's get you unmuted and bring you in.
Yeah. So I was on a call last Tuesday, and I took your advice and I got right to it. And I've never done cold calling in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was cold calling, and like the sweat was literally dripping down my underarms. I was like, but I talked to all types of people. And so one of the realtors that I had talked to, she gave me some advice to use someone's first name when you call them. I got 3 rings from you. I picked that up on one of the other YouTubes. So I let the phone ring 3 times, and I went in using their first name, and I had a lot of good success.
Nice.
And so I'm the car guy, and I got a realtor from the area. And so she's been going down with me. So I think that's we're working together now to like invest in some properties, and the car stuff is taking off too. So I found a couple good cars, exactly what I was looking for. And now I'm working my car thing, but on the side, I'm figuring out the real estate thing too. So
what kind of cars?
I got a 2006 Toyota Sienna, 1 owner, 90,000 miles. And the guy was really good. He was a really nice guy. His wife passed. And so I ended up talking to him for about an hour, literally. And I bought the car from him also. But he was a nice guy. We're actually going to do yoga. He's not too far from my gym, so we're going to do yoga together.
Wow.
Really nice guy, you know. So I like it. I feel for the people. Most of the people were polite. I said good morning, good afternoon. Some people were kind of abrupt. How did you get my number was a big thing. And I just said that it was public record. Yeah, so it's been an interesting experience. But I had a couple questions for you. So the 3-month rule that you have, how would you suggest that I hire somebody? Like, is there like a service that like a virtual secretary? Would you recommend like a virtual secretary, or would you say like maybe hire somebody like part-time? I was thinking maybe hire somebody for 4 hours, 2 times a week, and maybe pay them commission on like that.
I'm sorry, pay somebody to do what for you?
To make the cold calls. So your 3
So
months.
here's the problem with hiring, and I know every realtor's fantasy is they discover a script, they discover a data source, then they figure out how to hire somebody to make the phone calls, and all they have to do is show up and write the contract. And I can't speak to the car business. I don't have any experience in it, but I don't know anybody who's done that in real estate. Now, I do know people who were cold callers themselves and hired in somebody to sit next to them to cold call as well. Didn't get as good results as they did, but did cold call and made enough calls to make it effective. Because it's very difficult to train somebody to do something if you can't do it yourself. I'm not saying it can't be done. I'm saying I don't know anybody who did it. And I know a million realtors who tried it. I'm an executor on an estate in another county, and I get cold called, about once a day. And I kind of play with them a little bit. Now, truth is, I'm on the do not call list. So technically every call I get is a violation of federal law. And I've had them text me cold, call me cold. And I ask them questions and they always lie. Where'd you get the data? Oh, we drive around the neighborhood and look for houses. Well, this is a condo. How would you find that out? So why is that? Because as a telemarketer in a room, it's not somebody who is a real human being. And so I don't know that you can't do it. I don't know how to do it. I can't really advise you on how to. I know that there's another company that offered in-house salespeople and promoted it. Maybe in less competitive markets that works. And maybe in a market like we had a few years ago where everything was just selling so quickly, it worked. But I would say to hire somebody when you've done it yourself, I think is going to be a very steep climb, if that makes sense. I'm not saying you can't do it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you can't do it in cars. I'm not saying you can't do it to generate some leads.
Okay.
But I don't know that you can set an appointment and have it pre-qualified and really do that job unless they're really right next to you doing it with you, watching you do it, listening to you do it, and then you push them a little bit.
I got you.
Okay.
All right. Thanks a lot, Bill.
Well, George, before you go now, a couple things. So I noticed how happy you were when you said you got a car.
Yeah.
Now look, everybody noticed that smile.
Yeah.
Okay. So we all want to do something we enjoy, and I think that's important, first of all. Second, you mentioned you work with a realtor, which is great. Now, I'm sure there are other realtors also have the same problem that you can solve. And along the way, there'll be attorneys that you'll meet and you'll establish other relations. So keep on that. I think you're really onto something that will work for your car business and probably as an investor as well for you, okay?
Yes. Thanks.
And the last thing I would say is everybody here's what we're supposed to do. Few people actually go off and do it. And George, congratulations for actually going out and doing it. I'm really, really impressed.
Thanks, man. Thanks.
All right. So there we go. George going out and talking to people, and magically, somehow, he ends up getting some business. Funny how that works. Dan, you got your hand up. Let's get you unmute. What's going on, Daniel?
Hey, guys. Brand new. I went to my local courthouse today, and they didn't have a docket posted, but there were 3 cases, and they were quick, done like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want to know, when I'm going to court, I hear you say that you went like 300 times in 1 year. What am I looking to do? Am I supposed to approach those attorneys or ask them questions?
In what county are you in?
I'm in Rutherford County, Tennessee, about 30 per month or so, give or take.
Okay.
And I've already gone down to, the way ours works is the county clerk's office is where they file the petition. And then I don't know what the next step is. So there's really not anybody in the courthouse other than the lawyers. You have to go across the street to the county clerk's office. So I went over there today, asked some questions about how it works and what's the process, and then saw one of the attorneys that was in the courtroom. And then I had a question. I said, what is muniment of title? And we kind of got to talking a little bit. And then later I went into one of the attorney's offices that has a lot of cases that month and got the secretary to say, yeah, he'll call me. But I'm trying to figure out, at this point, I don't have my team ready. I don't have them built. I don't have a brand or a website yet. Very fresh. Am I shooting myself in the foot to try to talk to attorneys now? Or should I just go in from hey, I'm trying to help past and future clients learn the process. I'm a student. Help me.
So first thing, just as a disclaimer, I presume it's different I'm sorry, you said the name of the county, Tennessee.
Rutherford.
And what's the biggest city in Rutherford?
Murfreesboro.
I think you guys have a NASCAR track there, right? Murfreesboro?
Yes, and they hardly ever use it.
And what college is in Murfreesboro?
MTSU, Middle Tennessee State University.
One of my friends' sons goes there and learned aviation at MTSU.
Mm-hmm.
But so I've never been there, don't know a lot about it, but just by definition, you have 30 cases a month. Here in LA, we have 500 a month. So I can only imagine how much smaller it is and more rural, and I think more personal, I would guess. I don't know, but in general, people in the South, in general, even in big cities, more so in smaller cities, are going to be more personal and able to talk to you than in Los Angeles, which tends to be much more anonymous. I think the way I'd answer is, I think this is your opportunity to discover. I'll encourage you. You said to me, you have no team. Actually, you do have a team. We'll get there. You have no brand. Well, you do. Daniel Parker and your phone number for now is your brand, you. right? The brand is just the expression of the value proposition you're offering people. Today, the value proposition is you. Maybe not be as big as you like it to be or big as it will be, but it is what it is today. That's your brand.
Mhm.
And no website, I don't know, create a Facebook business page and use that for your website. You can buy a domain for $10. Don't make a big deal out of it. Don't let that stop you from doing business. But when you talk about not having a team, did you take that from the Probate Mastery training that you put together your team of vendors and such?
Right. I haven't got those together yet.
But you do, it's you. Meaning, think of a team member you think you're missing. Let's say you think you're missing an estate sale person, right? If I offered you $1 million, can you find an estate sale person in the next 3 hours?
Yes.
Yeah. So you don't have the guy, but you are the guy that will find the guy or gal, right? You are the team.
Okay.
You haven't yet filled out all the positions of the people you would delegate the work to. And I'm going to tell you, I don't do anything at the house. I don't take pictures. I don't put signs up. I don't meet inspectors. I don't meet appraisers. I don't do junk out. I didn't get the guns, the termites, the rodents, the cats. I don't do any of that, but I got a guy who did or a gal who did all those things for me, right?
Mhm.
And I didn't when they called with a problem, and some of them I had to find somebody, some I had somebody. So locksmiths, I have a bunch, but I'm in LA. I need locksmiths in about 8 different areas to service my areas. I don't have 8 locksmiths. I have one here and one there. So when I need one in another area, I find one. But I'm the team, and I delegate the work when I need to. So don't let that hold you back.
Okay.
Okay. So I'd say you have everything you need today to start. Can you add resources and do a better job? Of course. But don't let that stop you where you're at. As far as talking to attorneys, I think that as long as you're honest where you're at and that you create value for them, then you can talk to anybody, right? So why might an attorney want to talk to you? So let's ask that question. Why might an attorney want to talk to you if you go to court?
Because I've gone through my database and found few people that are interested in estate planning.
Maybe one. What's another reason why an attorney might want to talk to you?
Well, if I had actually spoken to the attorney today, I was going to use the technique of I need to map out all the things that a personal representative does versus what an attorney does so that I can have a handy handout to people that I'm talking to about probate. Could you help me put that together?
I think that's nice. I think that's good. So if I just happen to stumble on your front door and say, I'm lost, I'm hungry, something happened, I got dropped off here, would you help me?
Yes.
If I looked harmless, if I looked to be in trouble and safe for you to help, I'm not talking about I look like I'm strapped up with guns, I'm going to do something nefarious, but if you saw me truly as somebody who knew to help, you'd help me, right? Why would you do that?
Because I want to be helpful.
And I suspect in Riversburg, Tennessee, people are more like that than Los Angeles. As long as you come across somebody of value to them, generally speaking, people are willing to help. You might offer to buy them a cup of coffee. You might offer to buy them lunch as well as an inducement if you have the budget and the time to do that. If you don't, you don't. But I think in general, if you ask and you're professional and you make it valuable for them, people are willing to help. Right? So I would focus on your strengths and add the other pieces to the puzzle. Don't lean on the pieces that you haven't yet mastered or developed.
Okay.
And so then go back to your question, what do you do when you go to the courthouse? A couple of things. I would say one is reconnaissance. Knowing the layout of the court is valuable. If your client is going to the courthouse and you know they're going there, if you're going to go and meet them, you know where to park, you know where there's coffee, you know what the security time is to get through. Maybe it's nothing. In LA, the parking is a bit of a problem. You have to get through the front door. That's a little bit of a challenge. And then where's the coffee place? It's a big building. So I don't know what's like where you're at, but I would just say in general, knowing the lay of the land, knowing the clerk and what is available and what's not available is a big advantage because it varies by every county. How many courtrooms does your county have for probate? One?
Just one.
Who's the judge?
Mr. Toby Gilly.
Have you met Toby Gilly or he's seen you in court?
He saw me in court today. I've not introduced myself. I've actually been in front of him for a different civil case, so I'm familiar. And when I was outside the courthouse, I did a video and said, "This is where you'll park."
Beautiful.
Just sort of like one of your videos. This is where you'll go in. And if you've ever filed, you're familiar with the county clerk's office. And then I forget which episode it was, but I did a man on the street question and asked the guy, "Hey, who do you feel like should be thinking about estate planning?" And then I plan on going to meet with a lawyer and say, "Hey, ask the expert, answer this guy's question. Who needs estate planning?" So I've done a couple of those things.
Nice. My guess is if you go to court a couple more times, the judge is going to say, "Hey, have we met before? What brings you here?" And you might mention, "Well, I'm just here to learn about probate, but as before, Your Honor," that's the way we talk to judges, "as before, Your Honor, 4 years ago in a civil matter, you may not remember, but now I'm a real estate agent. I'm involved with probate real estate." And my experience is, especially in small counties, they're thrilled to have somebody. It's imagine you're a baseball player, nobody's in the stadium, and one day there's one guy watching you play. That's kind of how they are. And I think that, as long as you're respectful and you play the game correctly, it's a great opportunity. So I don't know how often you should go. Do they hold court daily, weekly, a couple of days a week?
It's Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and if the judge wants to, sometimes Fridays.
So I guess is Tuesdays and Wednesdays more routine matters, and Fridays might be carryover if there's a hearing or there's a trial and stuff. So I probably wouldn't go on Friday. And oftentimes those are closed. The hearings are often more personal, and the judge will close the room, or if it's a guardianship or conservatorship. So I'd make a point of going regularly though in the Tuesday, Wednesday part where they go through and try to learn what's going on there and learn the procedures that way.
I had a couple of more questions. Maybe this is the place.
Yeah.
At the moment, I'm not subscribing to a lead service like all the leads. I've pulled 3 months worth of data, but it's a mountain to climb through. What skip tracing programs do people use to find phone numbers?
So feel free to put in the chat box. If you take the raw data and do your own skip tracing, feel free to put in there. Also, Daniel, go to the estate planning Facebook group and ask that question. You'll get some answers there as well. I don't do skip tracing, so I'm not able to answer that question for you. Now, there are services you can buy the data from that do the skip tracing and give it to you with the phone numbers in it. So you have to evaluate, is that cost effective for you or not? I buy data from two services because frankly, I make enough money where I can, there's a relatively minor cost in my business, but I think you should always look at your expenditures in business, look for return on investment. And so make sure, I'm reinvesting money when I close deals. I'm not spending money hoping to get it. So if you're not in that place to start buying for it yet, but you're paying for skip tracing, just make sure you'll spend more on skip tracing than you would on getting the data if it's the same data. Okay.
Okay.
And let's see.
Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. Good. Hope that helps you. Thank you so much. Very patiently. I'm sorry, it kind of took a little while there. Oops. Why am I? Here we go. Elvis, you had your hand up very patiently here. Let me bring you in. What's going on, Elvis? Elvis is in the room.
Yeah, that was the room. So I have a question. So I got a game plan. I got an action plan on how to approach my marketing needs. My probate leads. I know you mentioned you have a different approach, maybe probate attorneys. And so how far out would you go with these probate leads? Are you focused more on, say 50-mile radius, 30-mile radius, or like, what's your approach? What would be your approach if you were to target probate leads?
So, when I designed my business, I made the decision to draw a circle around all of LA County. And the reason why was there's some really good agents who did well with certain high-end trust attorneys based on long-term relationships. I didn't think I could compete with them and work my way in. But those people didn't do as well in the lower price areas. And they tend to be more on the outside. You live in LA. Where do you live?
Downey area.
So, the agent who does more of the high-end West LA semi-market listings doesn't do South LA, doesn't do Long Beach, doesn't do Downey, doesn't do Lancaster, Palmdale. I do. So I designed my business for me Now, I'm not saying you should. We all have different businesses and different goals and different plans. But I decided for me, my plan was I was going to own all of LA County. I literally track every single probate case in LA County for all of LA County. I'm not saying that's right for you. It worked for me. But again, I was going to court, so they were all over the place, as opposed to maybe if I was in Downey, and for you, court isn't as convenient for me, right? For me, court's right down Pico Boulevard and it's maybe 20 minutes.
On Hill Street.
Right. You'd have traffic to come up, in the morning. I'm going opposite traffic. So I played my advantages, to my strengths. If I was in Downey, I might spend more time marketing to estate planning and probate attorneys in Downey and the surrounding Lakewood, whatever you want to call the surrounding areas. I might focus on that. And that's going to maybe carry you a little over into Orange County because I might not be as court-centric, if I were you, as I was, for example. So I don't know. It's a good question. It's worthy of more than me kind of answering, standing on one foot here on the call. But I'm showing you my thought process was when I evaluated the competition, there's some good players in Whittier that do a good job with some attorneys in Whittier. There's some good players in West LA, Santa Monica that I didn't think I could compete with. There's a couple in the Valley. There's a couple in Long Beach. But I felt like if I went through the whole game plan of the county, that would give me a competitive advantage. And it's worked out for me.
Mm-hmm. So put a little bit of thought process versus saying I'm going to do 30 miles or an hour around. I might have an abundance of leads in a 10-mile radius where,
I'm sure there are. And so and then also I had no other real estate business when I started. I had been in real estate and then got into coaching and recruiting and gave up sales. So I had no farm area. I had no past clients. I had no listings. So when I started, I needed something big enough. Whereas for many agents, and again, I'm not saying I was right and you're wrong. I'm just saying what I had to do for me at the time. But what many agents I talked to sell 10 houses a year already and want to do another 5 or so in probate. That's a different question than what I was facing. I was facing design a business from scratch. And so that's what I did. Mm-hmm. Right. And I'm not saying it was better or worse. I'm just saying that was the situation I was in at that time. Also, factors, I was 60 years old. I'm 64 today, and I'm not saying it's good or bad. I was 60 years old. Well, what's bad about it? I can't play full court basketball. What's good about it? I look more mature. People take me a little more seriously at first blush than somebody who looks younger. Like you look younger and a little more charismatic and energetic than I do just at first blush. But there's advantages for me with people who are older or people are looking for somebody older. That's why I worked attorneys more than I did families. I'm not saying you can't. I'm just saying that was my thought process was I did an assessment of my strengths, my weaknesses, and I designed a business that worked for my strengths. I think that, and you use the word think about it. I think that we all think we think about things, but we never really do. And what I did do at that stage of my career was I literally blocked out a week and wrote a business plan where I thought about it. I went to court in the morning, came back, took notes. I had a whiteboard. I have it in the next room over where I plotted it out. I mean, I literally took a week to design a business that's lasted me now here 4.5 years. I update it, but I really did think about it quite a bit.
Nice. Do you know where I can go to court to hear certain hearings? I mean, just to learn, because I really have. And is it the one on Hill Street or?
Mm-hmm.
or
yeah, the Stanley Moss Courthouse.
Okay, cool.
In LA County, that's not true for everybody else on the call, but in Los Angeles County, all the probate. Well, I should say 99.9% of probates are done in the Stanley Moss Courthouse. Some are done in the Antonovich Courthouse in Lancaster, Palmdale area. And then there's an occasional hearing at an outline court, usually because there's somebody who's a guardian or a conservative or guardianship case. But almost all cases are done in LA County at Mosque.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I can just walk in and kind of figure out what the schedule's like, or is that something that's online?
Both. I encourage everybody to research what online resources there are at your county court and go in person to your county court and surveil the place yourself. It's not that I want to be secretive to you about it, but I would say part of the process is learning. Like when you go there, some things will become clear to you because you go there in person that if I tell you, you think you'll know, but there's nothing like going there. like, for example, parking, and they changed which entrance you can go in. But there was a time when you can go to the entrance on First Street was a side entrance, a little faster to get in. So that's where I parked every day. When I had a client come, I would give the parking attendant my business card and prepay the parking. I would tell my client, go to this lot, ask for, Jose, and I've already paid for your parking. And that made a big impact for somebody who I'm, selling $1 million property for. So those are some of the things that I would do.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it, Bill.
Sure, Elvis. Thank you. Okay. Other questions, comments, feel free to put in the chat box your information so we can network. People can reach out to you, refer you cases, ask you for attorneys, estate planning attorneys, houses to sell. Who else has a challenge, question, problem I can help with today? Anybody? I had an interesting case. This is the first time it's happened to me where I had a client told me this, that an attorney that their attorney had recommended me to be the listing agent, but there was a brother who was kind of fighting them, and they eventually it was settled that my attorney's client was the one that got the authority. But before that, the two attorneys said, well, maybe we could agree on a real estate agent. Who would you recommend? The other attorney recommended me too. And the prospect called me laughing and said, you must be pretty good. Both attorneys, they don't agree on anything, but they both agree on you listing the property. So, and that's my latest listing. So let's see there. I see Bruce Hill. I guess since he pays for this, we might as well let him in. What's up, Bruce?
What's up, Bill? Good call.
Thank you.
I just wanted to jump in with a couple of answers to a few quick questions on skip tracing, because I've used a fair amount of skip tracing before. I think it was Daniel. Was it Daniel that asked the question about skip tracing? If it was, I like to use for cost-effective skip tracing where you're doing single, like individual names and property addresses. I like to use Forewarn, Propelio, and I did put these in chat, and then there's one more for good low cost, like individual skip tracing. That would be benverified.com. Ben, BEEN verified.com. I like Forewarn and Propelio a little bit better. Now, if you're doing large groups of skip tracing, I like IDI, so IDI, and Data Skip, IDI Core. It's actually IDIData.com. They keep changing their names, but it's good data. So IDIData.com and dataskip.com. Those are all good skip tracing sources that I've used. And then George asked the question about having someone call. And I totally agree with Bill. A lot of people really mess their business up when they try to outsource calling, which is one of the most important things that you can be doing, is calling. However, there are a couple of ways that you can do it effectively if you have the right mentality. You either hire someone that's better than you and you spend the money for them. So hire someone better than you and spend the money. Don't try to go cheap and get someone for $3 an hour in the Philippines. Okay. Or you do hire offshore and you give them an extremely simple, short script that ends with a question, and let them bird dog the people that answer the phone for you, as long as you know that you need to call everyone that picked the phone up. So that's the way that you can do it with someone that's a little more affordable, is have them bird dog people that do answer the phone, and then you pick the phone up and call all of them. Even if the person says, I don't need anything, click, you're calling that person. All right. Or go back to the first point and hire someone that's high skill. Don't try to go cheap if you're looking for appointments. And I would argue that appointments are pretty hard to set when it's not you. So I would challenge you to become the best you can on the phone, and keep that in your court for a while. And if you just don't have time or you think someone might be better, get somebody good. Okay. So that's all I had to add.
Okay. And then you got caught in the chat box a question. Any thoughts using PropStream or batch lead for skip tracing?
I think they're both okay. I don't know where they source their data from, and I've used both. I just find that the accuracy is slightly lower if you're doing big like bulk lists, slightly lower than DataSkip and IDI. I believe that both DataSkip and IDI get their data through LexisNexis, which is one of the best in the industry when it comes to skip tracing. And then LexisNexis basically sells their data or sells their accounts to companies that qualify. So you have to go through a rigorous application process to be able to piggyback on their data and provide their data. And I think, don't quote me on this, I think both IDI and DataSkip both use LexisNexis data. I don't think, and I don't want to get myself in trouble because it could be PropStream and Batch do as well. I've just noticed that I don't get the accuracy when I use those two.
Okay. Great. And I've used PropStream for other things, and I think that there are investors who use with multiple overlays, right? They're looking for, there's a probate, and then maybe it's filed over 6 months or over a year already. Plus a foreclosure, or plus vacant, plus out of area homeowner. And so you can use multiple screens on some of those database programs to maybe take a bigger geographic area, but find a specific data set you're looking for. So,
Bill, that's the reason that I actually do occasionally use Batch and PropStream. Being able to add filters and overlay screens on top of one another to really refine your list is unbelievable if you're pulling lists. Yeah. It's a great source. If you already have your list, they're probably not the best to skip trace a list that you already pulled from somewhere else.
Yeah, I would think so. I would think not. Good. Yeah. And again, there's different ways. This is a huge business with a number of different ways to generate business. I don't do phone calling, so I don't want to pretend I do. I've done some, but in probate, I've not made that my focus on my marketing. So I don't want to. I'll be careful not to answer questions I don't know the answer to. Great. Well, thanks there for the updates. Anybody else questions, challenges, problems, victories? Can you write in here the skip tracing companies? Okay, there you go. And now they're in the chat box. Ask and you shall receive. Very good. Anybody else? Question? Oh, no. What kind of security do we have for this outfit? This guy, every week we get Zoom bombed by this guy. And he changes his name so we won't recognize him. Oh, my God. Okay. Larry and Kathy. I don't see Kathy. If I saw Kathy, that'd be great. I only see Larry. What's up, Larry?
Sorry, Kathy's not on this one.
What a disappointment that is. I'm so excited.
I know. It is so good to be loved. And I have no idea where all this animus comes from, Bill. I have been nothing but supportive, caring, helpful, and I get it double barrel every week. But that's not why I put my hand up. So this is like, you know the basics of what you should be sharing with executors of, some of the basics, like have you secured the property? Have you changed the locks? Have you put in no trespassing sign out? Have you got the insurance up to date? And I got to this executor too late. I got to her and I asked her, she said, well, we have a house to sell and we're going to sell it, but it's in really bad shape. And I said, well, tell me about it. And she goes, well, it all started because we had a flood in the house and it turns out the insurance company won't pay for it. I said, well, was that was that your father's? It was her father. I go, was that his homeowner's insurance policy? She goes, yeah. She said, because it was his policy, they're not paying for it. And it's about $100,000 worth of damage. And it kind of goes back to the basics of when we call and talk to people, we should be sharing that, even if maybe they're not got an ear for it yet or not. And I think Bruce has a good way of kind of introducing that, because usually the first thing is, I got it. I'm good. I hired an attorney. They're going to take care of everything. Well, everything that I can think of right now. But there's just such a gap between the education, between what reality is. About 25% of what has to be done, the attorney's going to take care of. And the majority of it is not. And that's the gap. I think that's the value. Bruce, you're on here. You can jump in, but it's like, that's where I think we help. That's what we do. And had I gotten a hold of her sooner, I could have maybe been able to persuade her to talk to my insurance guy and get that place properly insured. But that's the gap. And the gap is the stuff they don't know about. And there's a way to get that into that conversation, I think, is just absolutely vital. We do it.
Yeah, I mean, I literally had a conversation yesterday and today with an attorney on one of the cases where it's so funny. These two parties are fighting over who has the authority. The brother in the case, the losing side, had control of the property. They've changed the locks on him 4 times, and he's changed them back 4 times. So he won't give up control of the property. I have the listing now signed yesterday. Can't get in until he meets us to let us in while we're sending a locksmith. But his attorney has the audacity to say, "Oh, by the way, there's no insurance." And my attorney wanted to say, "Well, yeah, but you've had control of the property for the last 9 years. We got the authority a few days ago, and you haven't even let us in the property. And it's hard to get insurance when the insurance agent can't get inside the property, at least to walk it or take a look at it." So these are good discussion points to have and have right away. I think it's real, and avoiding claims is real. Protecting assets, attorneys are very much on that, and they don't have the liability for not getting that done. So it's a great question to always ask. And I have a couple insurance guys who will do vacant homes, which many won't, especially California, Texas, and Florida in particular. Hard to get regular insurance, even harder to get vacant home insurance. And so make sure you have a resource or 2 or 3 that you can give to your attorneys, and that's a great talking point, because everybody's in the news paying attention to the fact it's hard to get insurance right now.
Yeah, I Bruce, you any thoughts on that? Like my point there, your segue.
A lot. The thing is you want to have multiple arrows in your quiver here. You're not really sure which one that you're going to use.
Right.
You have to kind of feel it out and try different things. And every now and then I got to tell everyone that sometimes you're going to try something and you're going to notice that it backfires on you, because you don't know what kind of personality necessarily that you're dealing with. You're not always going to know when they say, "No, I don't need anything. It's all taken care of," or "I don't need insurance," or whatever their comeback is. You don't know if that's just them being kind of naive, and if they're open-minded or if they're closed-minded. So a couple of the arrows that you want to have in your quiver is you want to be able to have an arrow of being extremely direct. They say the attorney's doing everything for me, and you go, "That's amazing." As a matter of fact, the things that I pick up on are like the 75% of things that attorneys don't handle. So that's a really direct approach. You have to be prepared for that person to get kind of pissed off at you if you've just corrected them. Now you've called them out on being dumb and not knowing what they're doing. And that's what could potentially happen in their head. But you still need to have that available, because you're going to be able to feel the tone of the call and the tone of the person that's talking to you. And if you feel as though they're a receptive, open-minded person, you might want to be direct and lead them into the notion that you pick up where the attorney leads off. There's other times when you're going to sense that, hey, if I correct them openly right now, I'm going to hurt the relationship. So that's where you want to really back off and let them know that that you're not here to disagree with them. Hey, it sounds like your attorney's doing a great job. I really appreciate that. Maybe if anything ever comes up, I could give you some information on what I do. You could call me if anything changes. That's the some call it the coward's way, but sometimes that's the way to save a relationship and build some rapport with them. And it's a great way to get an email. It's a great way to get an email. So maybe I could send you some information, and that way you could call me if anything changes and you're looking for help. Is that okay? And they say yes. Perfect. What's a good email for you? So that's another arrow in your quiver. The third is going to be challenging them delicately on whether they're open-minded. So the way that you could do this would be something like, hey, would you be open to seeing if one of my contacts could get you a better deal on your insurance? Would you be open to seeing if I could provide you a better price? That's good for the people that said I've already sold, or I already have a realtor. So you could always bring up whether they're open-minded. You don't want to say, are you open-minded? Because that's a little too transparent. So would you be open to is a subtle way to test whether they're open-minded, because none of us like to be considered closed-minded. So those are just 3 different things that you could do as they bring up those objections. Are you open to? You could directly challenge them, or you could back way off. And after you've backed way off and you've offered to get an information, then you can pivot to a different topic. I love pivoting to different topics. Once I've put something to bed, hey, while I got you on the phone, could I ask? And then I'll just go in a completely different direction. I'll tackle the real estate, or maybe I'll tackle the insurance if that hadn't been tackled, or maybe I'll tackle the vacant property no trespassing sign. So you've got all these things that you could tackle, but you want to put that original objection to bed, and then, hey, I really appreciate the time while I have you, and then take off in a different direction with another question.
Right. It is all good options. But that learning to read that executor or applicant is real. That's the real trick.
There's no other way to read the person that you're talking to until you've started trying to read people. The mistake that a lot of people make is they say to themselves, I don't know how to read this situation, and so I'm not going to do anything. I'm going to shut down. I'm going to let the call end. And the idea is you need to go out and make some mistakes. You need to try to read someone and try to take one of those directions. And if you screw up, you just learned something, and you learned how you could adjust that mess up in the future. So I started jujitsu a little while ago, and it's totally a cult. I'm going to bring it up to everyone. You guys, many of you are like, Bruce, God, you're talking about jujitsu again. Okay. And my coach was telling me like a week ago, I asked him what I was supposed to do. I said, should I do this, or this? And he said, well, I can guarantee you that you sitting there wondering which one of those approaches you're going to do is not the right move. You want to pick one of those approaches and do it. And if it's wrong, you'll learn. But if it's right, you'll win. If it's wrong, you'll learn. But you're never going to learn if you don't try to read the call and pick a direction.
Well, I agree. And the one thing that I can't think that came out of that kind of galvanized me a little bit more is don't give up too soon, and be willing to push a little bit, because, had I gotten to her before and just say I did find out they were not properly covered, would have been an opportunity to really help them. And, you can't do it now. The only thing it can do is help you to go, okay, for everyone listening to this call, I would be using this conversation here is that I was on the phone just the other day, and we're talking about another executor that had failed to get the right coverage. They didn't know, and because they didn't know, they thought they were covered when in fact they weren't, because was homeowners insurance, and it's different than non-owner insurance, and you ought to at least check that out, right? So it's a way to relate that. I like being very direct by being indirect by using somebody else's mistakes as a way to make my point without telling you, Bruce, that you're really screwing up.
Mm-hmm.
you need to do that.
They say, hey, it's all handled. You go, hey, yeah, that's amazing. I love to hear that. It sounds like there's not a whole lot you need right now. And kind of put that piece to bed and then go, oh, by the way, I was working with someone the other day that actually had a flood in their house and their insurance company wouldn't cover it. Would you be open to seeing if my insurance agent might be able to get you covered in the case of something like that? Now you just completely shift to a different topic.
Now you brought value, got another reason to call, check in, take care of them. They're more open. With Bill, I would have to use the most direct approach possible. So you need another one that's even more direct than what you suggested.
Bill, need something more direct. Come up with it.
Well, I think actually the opposite. I think that when I teach objection handling, I learned the fundamental 3 steps. This goes back to Tom Hopkins. I think Mike Furrier also taught it, which is first, always repeat what they say, because no matter what you do, people assume salespeople don't listen. And if you don't repeat it, they're going to assume you didn't hear them properly. And anything you recommend is like argumentative. You can't argue with them. You have to agree with them. And so the first step of that is to repeat it. The second is to affirm what they say, not to agree, but affirm. So that sounds like something like, oh, you have everything handled. That sounds great. And I think you said it, Bruce, in almost those same words, but I'm trying to lay it out in 3 steps. 1, repeat. 2, affirm, which means make them feel good that that's what they think. We're not agreeing with them, but we're acknowledging that's what they think. And then 3rd is the next question to continue the conversation. And that gets down to, you brought up perhaps some other way, some other angle to get there on it, and they've moved off. So everything handled. That's great. Okay, good. I'm curious, have you looked into the importance of having vacant home insurance that will cover things that maybe the prior insurance that your homeowner had already? And by asking that question, you get them thinking about something else. And so that's the 3-step objection handler that I would say is be a little more direct. But I do think that you can't get there by arguing with them. We never argue with a prospect. We all know, those of us who are married men know we're never supposed to argue with our wives. We do because we're knuckleheads, but we're not supposed to argue with them. You really can't. And same with a prospect. You can't argue with them to get them to know you, like you, and trust you. You have to agree with them and then show them some ways to improve the process.
We had someone in Probate Mastery one time that called me and he said, Bruce, I can't get it through these people's heads that they need me. And I said, what happens? And he said, I tell them that I provide these services and they tell me it's all handled. And I tell them, well, you might think it is, but you don't have it all handled. And I said, well, what happens then? He said, for some reason, these dummies hang up on me. How many times has this happened? Dozens of times. And I wanted to say, well, it's not them that are the dummies.
Right. I think that's the point, is that if you treat somebody as though they're a dummy, they're going to hang up on you. I mean, nobody wants to be treated like they're a dummy.
Well, yeah. My takeaway is not to argue with my wife. I had not heard that before. So.
Okay. Well, yeah, that's
with that, I'm out.
Peace out. Okay. Well, kind of at the end, anyhow, Bruce, unless there's anything else you want to add to the mix? We're kind of getting up to the witching hour here.
You're good.
I'm going to throw out Larry Smith. I saw here, Debbie, your love for Larry, and I would say that's a warning. If you do that again, we're going to have to ask you not to come on this call. We're going to have to banish you to some other coaching call. But I'm going to throw Larry out before he says, he has his hand up. He wants to say something. Okay, go ahead, Larry.
Thank you, Debbie, very much.
I was
Don't
gonna
en-
say you're kind of mean, Bill.
Don't
Yeah,
encourage.
exactly. That's what I'm talking about.
I'm mean, really? I'm mean? Okay. Larry, you're out of here. Look at that. I threw him out. Debbie, you're banished. I'm going to make you go to the Mike Frey coaching system if you're not nicer to me. I didn't get any love in the chat box today. Only Larry did. So, okay, Atif, last question. We're going to bring you in if you want to raise your hand or put your camera on, raise your hand, unmute yourself. So I tried to hit unmute.
Hello.
Hey,
Hey, how you doing?
I hit the wrong button there. Oops. Let's see. Add to spotlight and Adele, I'm gonna take you out of the spotlight. Move there. Atif?
Yes, hi, how are you?
Good. What's up? You got a question?
Yeah, I have a question. I'm under contract to buy a property here in New Jersey, and the seller, I mean, I'm really interested in the property that they have, but they made me aware yesterday that they have another property that, you know, they don't have ownership of yet. But basically, the other property that's very interesting, it belonged to the grandparent that passed away, and now their parent passed away, and it was never transferred over to the parent. So it's kind of like in limbo. I'm trying to figure out what's the best way to, get this, proceed with this so I can buy it.
What state are you in?
New Jersey.
Yeah, I don't know the laws of New Jersey. Maybe Bruce does, but I would say find somebody who knows the particulars, or an attorney that you work with, you can run it by. If they don't have a solution, they might need a probate attorney. So to me, that's a reason why I would call a local probate attorney I work with and say, I don't know if I have a lead for you or not, but here's the scenario. I would pull up the public record that has a chain of title. I might pull the deeds and make it easier for him to evaluate fairly quickly what the process was. And he might look at that and determine that they need a probate, or there's some sort of streamlined process, maybe in New Jersey, or it's a sub-probate to the one that they're doing already. I don't know the answers there, but I would say that's a great question to bring to an attorney. And then I would say, Atif, I have somebody in my network that might be able to help you. If offline you want to reach out to me, send me an email or a text or something, I might be able to help you with that.
I would add that a contract, a letter of intent, or a first right of refusal, while not enforceable, and none of those, if they don't own the property, none of the three of those are going to be enforceable. But you may get a little extra emotional commitment if you were to present to them a contract or a first right of refusal or just a letter of intent, and then you have something to actually take to your attorney. And you have to just be aware that if you do that and they don't currently have any rights to sell the property or ownership of the property, that it could fall apart. But getting them a little bit more emotionally engaged with the sale is going to help. And it'll also give you something to be able to take the attorney. So I would probably sign something with them.
Okay. There we go. And he's gone. I didn't kick him out. I kicked Larry out, but I didn't kick out Atif. So sorry about that if we ran you off. But I think he got his answer and he's going to run off and get taken care of. Thank you so
There
much.
he is. No, he's here.
Oh, I don't know how he got out of the room there. Okay, well, anyhow. There you are. And he's off. Okay. So that all said, you want to finish up here, Bruce? You want me to wrap up or what?
Go ahead, Bill.
So this was our Probate Mastery Real Estate Coaching Call. We do this every Tuesdays at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Continue the conversation. I'd love to have you join the Estate Planning Mastermind group on Facebook. Put questions, comments, referrals, looking for attorneys, looking for real estate agents in other states there as well. Then separately, I host Probate Weekly, which is more of an interview format every Thursday, 4 p.m. Pacific Time. Sign up at probateweekly.com. And I also have a Facebook group called Probate Weekly. And then there I have upcoming this week, my attorney is Paul Horn, who's the most prolific attorney in LA County, and also the instructor for the California Association of Realtors certification program. So a great resource for those of you, particularly in California, but overall great businessman and an attorney who built his business on realtor referrals. So even in other areas, you can learn how to find your Paul Horn in your county as well. So I'm Bill Gross, and with me today is Bruce Hill, proprietor of ProbateMastery.com. If I can help, I'm on social media at Bill Gross Probate on social media. And thank you all, everybody, and have a great week. Thanks, guys.